Well, here's a show I've been wanting to do for quite a long time. It's all about kitchens. About 50% of the work I do these days at Maven Hill Designs happens to be kitchens or bathrooms. Kitchens and bathrooms seem to sell houses. They seem to be constantly changing and growing. And it's very important to keep up to date on what's happening when it comes to kitchen design in particular. I'm very fortunate to have in studio today somebody who knows all about kitchens and all about food. His name is John Leahy. He's a CIA graduate, Culinary Institute of America, not the other place, and has over 30 years restaurant and food experience. Good to see you. Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you for having me, Rich.
Our topic today happens to be something that I get all the time, and that is kitchens. I was just taping my radio show, and at the end of the segment, my guest said to me, do you have a second? I want to show you something. I thought she was going to show me a picture of her kid. She said, no, I want to show you my new kitchen. How should I finish it? What should I do? I think people have a curiosity about kitchens, don't you?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Do people often ask you questions about kitchens because you have a food background?
Oh, yes, they ask me, about appliances, placement, things like that.
The practicality of kitchens. Well, for that reason, I wanted to do this show, this episode on kitchens. I'm going to take it from my end of the spectrum, and that is I am a designer, so I'm going to take it from the aesthetic elements of kitchens. But what I'd really like to know, or have our audience know, is from a practical perspective, what are the best surfaces? What works best practically? And I want to go through some of those with you and get your genuine ideas, because you are such a great cook, on what works and probably what maybe doesn't work so well.
Okay, great.
So we're going to go as if we're building from the ground up in a space, or perhaps just assuming that I'm having a new house where I'm starting from the beginning. And I want to start with flooring. There's lots of options when it comes to kitchen floors that are very practical. And these days, people are opting to carry on their first floor, if it's a two-story facade, carry wood throughout the kitchen space, which wasn't the case 20 years ago. Typically, in those cases, most of the kitchen areas, like the bathrooms, were some sort of a tile or stone surface. But it's come to be that we're seeing a lot of wood through kitchens. Now, aesthetically, I often recommend that. If it's a smaller profile, if you have a wood kitchen that's going through the rest of the house, that wood going through, it makes the space look bigger. What do you think of wood floors as a practical solution for kitchen spaces?
Wood floor is a good choice. I mean, today the hardwood floors are, stained and then coated with a polyurethane, so
Sure.
they're protected,
Right.
just as if it was a tile floor. As long as you're not too hard on them, dropping heavy pots and things like that, because that can scratch or dent the floor.
Dimples, sure.
Right, but otherwise, I think a wood floor is a good choice.
For you, when you were working in the restaurant part of your career, is wood hard on your feet, or would be a surface that might be better? The reason I ask, let me do this and have you do it. I have a woman right now who wants me to put a cork floor in. The house at beautiful existing hardwood floors. She wants me to take the wood out of the kitchen and put in cork, which I'm not really thinking is a good idea. Have you worked on that surface before, on cork?
Well, in a commercial establishment, most of the kitchens are tile. Most of them are a ceramic tile, a quarry tile. That's done because it's easy to clean. And it also, we get long time usage out of it.
Sure.
They wouldn't do a cork floor or wood floor in a commercial establishment.
Sure.
So what we also do is we put down rubberized mats so that the cooks and the chefs are standing on a rubberized mat, so it's easy on their feet and on their legs.
Wonderful. So in your case, in your own home, do you have what is your kitchen surface? Is it wood?
In my kitchen, it's wood right now, but I have had tile floors.
If you were to start over and you were building a new house, what would your flooring surface be?
If it was an open floor plan and I was
Right.
connected to other rooms, I probably would want to keep the floor the same. So it probably would be all hardwood.
Sure.
But if it was an older home and my kitchen was separate, then I may consider a tile floor.
Interesting. So let's say our preferred surface at this point is the flooring is wood, especially if you have it throughout the house. It makes the floor, if the floor is the same consistent, it makes it look more open, and I think it's probably a good choice.
Right.
Let's go to my next topic, and that is countertops. Now, countertops have changed in the past 20 years so much. When I started in this industry, John, most people didn't have granite. Only the rich people had granite.
Right.
And then it slowly evolved that, oh my God, you don't have granite. And then granite wasn't really so much in style anymore. Other surfaces came into be. So most kitchens that I go into today, or we're doing a redo where we're building a kitchen, people ask me for quartz specifically. Very much like the properties of granite, but it doesn't require the maintenance that granite may require. So I'm seeing that most often. I've always worked in granite. In the early days, I guess I had some laminate, good-looking laminate cabinets, countertops that I was working with. For you, as somebody who has a food background, what is the easiest surface to cook or prepare food on?
Well, for myself, I prefer either granite or quartz.
Okay.
I have seen people use stainless steel, which is what we do use in a commercial kitchen.
So if you were to go into one of these big establishments or hotels, they use the metal. Is that for
Right.
cleanliness, or what was the reason?
It's for cleanliness and durability.
Okay.
But for a home, I would probably go granite or the quartz product.
Right, right. It's said that people are going for the quartz now because of the maintenance, but I haven't found that granite really was a lot of maintenance. I mean, once a year you rub down a little bit of, of a sealer on it. I don't think it's a big
Right.
deal, do you?
No, I don't think so either. I never had an issue with it. I never had a problem with it chipping or scratch or anything like that. It's always been pretty durable.
I think the reason people are going more towards a quartz surface is that the look of quartz, the quartzes that are coming out, are simpler. They're mostly whites and grays. They have much simpler tones, and they're a way to achieve the look of like a marble without actually doing a marble.
Right.
You really wouldn't want marble in a kitchen per se because it's porous and it stains.
Right.
Although I think marble would probably be a great surface if you were baking.
Yes, if you're a baker, then you may want to do one of your countertops in marble because
Sure.
marble is easy to work on if you're rolling out doughs or pie crust and things like that.
Sure.
So people look for the cool flat surface of a marble.
For baking. I want to talk about a surface now that I don't think is ideal for kitchens. And I had a customer I'd say about 8 years ago in Basking Ridge. We were building a beautiful new house, and she insisted she wanted the center island to be butcher block,
Right.
but a really beautiful, dark stained, expensive butcher block. And I consistently said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And, I read a lot about using this surface, the wood surfaces on a counter. And they say there's antimicrobial factors that go into the wood, and it's actually healthy and better for you. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't really wouldn't recommend a wood countertop. I think
I agree.
you have to deal with scratching. You don't want people cutting on it.
Yeah, actually, I would imagine that you would probably make cuts right
right,
into
and
the
then
wood,
if you got to cut into the wood, then you'd have to have it sanded down.
Yeah, because that would be almost unsanitary in a way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend it, but a lot of people, may do it if they have a separate counter and they're looking for something decorative,
Well, typically it's the island space that they want to
Right.
do different.
as long as they're not big cooks.
Sure.
Because
it's
you have
for
to be
show.
careful about burning it. You have to
Right.
be careful about cutting it, scratching it,
Right.
denting it. There's a lot of issues with butcher block.
Remember the days of Corian, that surface that everybody was switching to because it was an upgrade? Remember that it used to really burn, and it constantly had to be prepared.
Right.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the flooring surface. We've talked a little bit about countertops. Let's talk about backsplashes. Backsplashes, people that can't afford to change their kitchen, a backsplash is a way of creating a very different and unique look for your home. Now, these days, anything could be used as a backsplash. We're starting to see wood used as backsplashes. So many new materials, so many things out there that are available. Tin, I mean, there's just so many things out there. Corrugated metals, glass is back in style again in a different way. From a practical standpoint, for somebody that does a lot of cooking, what's probably the best surface that you would recommend for maybe a backsplash for somebody that cooks often?
Well, your backsplash, you want to be able to clean it.
Clean, sure.
And I think sometimes I've seen people get backsplashes and they're very detailed and complicated, and then you have to worry about staining the grout
Sure.
and being able to wipe it down, and it's not a flat surface. I
Exactly.
prefer subway tile
Mhm.
or a larger tile with a very thin grout line.
Well, that's also, actually, it's funny you say that, that's also trending. The rustic grout line used to be very in a wider or even inconsistent grout line. And what's come to be now is that people want their grout lines as close as possible for its looks as much as its practicality. So probably these days the most common backsplash people are doing is they're doing the classic subway tile. But what has changed is instead of doing it in the 3x6 size, they're doing it elongated. So we're seeing 3x12 or 4x10. We're also seeing them getting a little bit taller now, but definitely longer than they were before. So subway tile in any color, in whites and grays, very ideal. Let's talk about grout a little bit in those surfaces, because I would see the biggest maintenance issue with doing a backsplash like that would be, in fact, be the grout. Even if it's sealed, it's a porous surface.
Right.
What do you think aesthetically when the grout is a color? I personally hate colored grout. I think color should match whatever tile it is. What's your
I
perspective?
agree with you. I don't particularly care for dark grout or colored grout, but you definitely have to seal it, because if you don't seal it, you will stain it and it will not be able to get clean.
But from a practical standpoint, that's why I brought it up. I recently did a kitchen, and we did we did the 4x10 all the way up, and it went all the way up with a beautiful hood. And the homeowner insisted I use a dark gunmetal gray grout, which I didn't like because then you see the grout, it's a statement. But from a practical standpoint, is a darker grout not going to show as much? Do you follow what I'm saying? Because it's a darker grout?
Well,
Or
grout
maybe it'll show it more.
Well, grout will stain no matter what color it is.
Right.
Because if it's grease, if you get grease on it, it will discolor it.
It'll be like an oil stain as opposed to...
So, it's just my personal choice that I
Sure.
don't prefer dark grout. But, I know that sometimes people are looking for a different look, something very trendy.
Sure.
And they'll put in, white tile with black grout.
Because it's that whole industrial trend,
Right.
and it kind of lends itself to that. So if we weren't going to use, for a backsplash, if we weren't going to use tile, people these days are starting to use wood, weathered wood. What do you think about that?
Well, I just think that's very difficult to clean. I don't see how that would work.
I agree.
I've used wainscoting as a backsplash, painted and sealed.
Well, that probably would hold up, right?
Right, that holds up well. Or I've seen the tin, again, sealed.
Sure.
But you have to make sure that it's able to be washed, because
Right.
otherwise it will not last.
It won't last. Here's another thing, and I want to send that to my viewers here on Design for the Times. Don't make your backsplashes too trendy. Backsplashes go out of style very quickly, as you've seen by the magazines. I always say stick with a conservative backsplash, then buy whatever you like and put it in front of it. Whether it be a really gorgeous tray that's sort of a distressed wood or metal, put that in front of it on a stand. Keep your backsplash new, but keep it classic, because then you can do a lot with it.
Right.
I want to move to appliances, which I would imagine you'd have unbelievable opinions on. And I want to start by talking about something that was an aha moment in my life, and that when I'm in the house that I'm in now, the existing kitchen had the cooktop in the island, which I thought, I cannot wait to get rid of that. I talk all my clients into having the cooktop in the island. I just think it's unbelievable. You are not facing a window or a wall. You're connecting with your guests. What's your thought about having a cooktop or an actual whole range in your island space if you have an island?
Well, I prefer it also, and the
Okay.
reason why is most islands today, you have 3 or 4 stools on the side. Your guests come over, everyone's sitting in the kitchen. I know with me, they like to come in the kitchen and watch me cook.
Sure.
So it's more pleasant for me to cook and have conversation with people around the island.
Right.
The last thing I want is people coming over and having them watch me wash pots and pans.
Or not be a part of the whole mix,
Right.
right? You're not attending your own party.
Right. So I prefer the sink off to the side. So the cleaning and everything is kind of kept separate, and more of the entertainment part, the cooking, the serving, and everything is on the island part.
Okay, so when it comes to ranges or cooktops, I always say bigger is better if you can make it work in scale. So if I could get a 36-inch range, I want to do that. If I can
Right.
have a bigger cook surface. What is the quintessential ideal cooking surface for a space? Is it gas because you get a different sort of heat? Is it electric? Or the combination perhaps of a gas cooktop and then have the ovens be wall ovens and be electric? What's the best mix in terms of a chef, or how a chef would cook in a kitchen?
Well, I would say a chef would prefer a gas range. I
Okay.
prefer a 5/6 burner cooktop
Okay.
or larger.
Okay.
And then as far as the ovens are concerned, I prefer wall ovens, convection, electric.
Okay.
Because the electric is a little bit more consistent heat.
Sure.
And it does a little bit better for baking.
Sure.
But cooktop gas and, have a downdraft fan available or a fan over the cooktop. And, that's the ideal kitchen for me.
Wow. I do hear that consistently from other people. I will tell you this, when it comes to ventilation, when you have a center island that has the cooktop in it, and your ventilation, there's not the ability to have a hood there, and sometimes there is the ability to have a hood there, but if there isn't and you do the downdraft that pops up, often people tell me that it isn't such a great solution, because what happens is when that goes on, the gas jets, if you will, the flame kind of goes out because it's affected
Right.
by the fan speed and so
Right.
on.
That's
So-
why I like a hood over the top of the cooktop.
Correct, sure.
That's the
definitely.
ideal setup.
Microwaves are becoming a bigger and bigger issue now when I design a kitchen, because people don't want to see appliances anymore. So people are finding interesting and unusual ways to incorporate a microwave into their kitchen without basically seeing it. One of the things that I've done before is an actual drawer in the island that sort of pops up that you can use as a microwave. The other thing that was working for a while, but people never grasped, was having one of the ovens have a microwave setting within an actual oven, but they've discontinued that, most manufacturers.
It's not really practical.
What do you think, for the purposes for having a microwave, what is the ideal situation for a microwave? Because even somebody who sort of poo-poos the microwave, there are very practical applications to a
Oh
microwave,
yeah,
right?
microwaves are great for reheating and defrosting, things like that.
Right.
I prefer it in the island,
Okay.
just beneath the countertop.
Okay.
I've seen people have them above a refrigerator or on a shelf or something.
Well, let's stop
and
there
I just
because-
find it to be very dangerous.
Yeah. So in the past, it was very common for people to have their stove, and then above the stove, as part of the ventilation, so to speak, they would have the microwave above it. Hot liquids above your head, not a good idea, not
Right.
something that I would do. Another thing that I wanted to discuss with you today in studio was, what do you think about pot fillers, that sort of arm that would come out of the back of a stove to add water? I also think not good.
Well,
You're not seeing them.
again,
if you notice, you're not
again,
seeing
it
them as
really
much anymore.
depends on the person you're designing the kitchen for.
Right.
I don't have a problem picking up a pot with 5 gallons of water in it and taking it over to the stove.
Right.
But if somebody, has a problem with the lifting, stuff like that, and may want to have a pot filler, I have no problem with it. I don't have a problem with it.
Definitely.
But, it does have its application.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about other appliances, and specifically refrigeration, because refrigeration has sort of probably changed more recently, I think, with all these seminars I attend, than any other of the kitchen appliances, because people are doing selective refrigeration now, because I think people in general, don't you think they're much more into food than they were?
Oh, yes, definitely.
So the most recent show I went to, they're showing refrigerated columns, that people don't have this sort of one central space
Right.
they go to for cold or frozen foods. They're columns in certain parts of the kitchen. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, you have to really, before you design a kitchen, you have to sit down and really think hard about what your needs are.
I agree.
If you have children, you may want refrigerated drawers. If you are a big cook and you don't shop that frequently, you may want to do the columns where you have a larger refrigerator and a larger freezer.
Right.
So it really depends on the type of cooking you're doing, how often you cook, entertaining, things like that, and then and then make sure that you have enough refrigerated space.
Sure.
Because the last thing you want to do, is get somebody sick, and the biggest thing you have to worry about cooking is food temperature.
Sure, keeping track of the food temperatures. One of the reasons I think people are going more towards the columns or isolated refrigeration is just for convenience. And I always say the kitchen is one room where it has to be functional first and then beautiful. I think it's important. I think you can do both, but you have to have, good decisions. So to me, having the refrigerator, freezer, drawers when you have children, terrific. They don't have to go into the big refrigerator, maybe just for beverages or yogurt or something like that. I think that's a great idea. And they're done in a way now that you can really sort of integrate them with your cabinets and you don't really see
Right.
them. Personal choice. Do you like to see a stainless steel beautiful refrigerator, or do you like to see it covered with cabinet veneer so it just disappears?
I
Personal choice.
Well, I'm kind of in the middle with that because I think it really depends on the overall design of the kitchen. If I'm
Sure.
looking for a more commercial looking kitchen, then I may have the stainless steel. But I have seen some nicely done built-in refrigerators with the matching cabinets.
Sure.
And as long as it looks good, I do like that. It's when I see when you see a refrigerator with these panels on it, and then you can tell right away that it's just a refrigerator with panels on it.
Looks cheesy.
That's not what I'm
Definitely.
interested in.
Let's talk about lighting. I think lighting is key for a kitchen to be functional, and task lighting as well as
Yep.
lighting for beauty. There have been so many through the years, different types of under-counter lighting.
Right.
Anything that you see today that you like when people, now they have LEDs, which are terrific. They don't cost
Yeah,
a lot.
I like under counter lighting. I like everything in the kitchen to be dimmable,
Yes.
so that when I'm preparing food, I can have it up very bright and I can see what I'm doing. But then when company starts arriving, I can dim light down and have it, kind of make it look very ambient.
John, I think one of the reasons I'm seeing people put so much money and time into their kitchens is because people are living less formally.
Right.
And what I see a lot of people doing is tearing down the wall between their kitchen and their dining room and making it one more casual open space,
Yes.
and being with the person that's cooking. So I think lighting is important not only for practical reasons, but also for beauty.
Right.
Now, what I noticed, which is a very big change, is that over people's center islands or tables, pendants are becoming all the rage. That is pendants, and where you put a pendant, you see pendants
Right.
happening. What do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, I believe there should be task lighting, pendant lighting that's nice over an island.
And have it all coexist.
Right. But again, something that's durable
Mhm.
and something that can be cleaned. Because
Sure.
especially if you have an island where you have a cooktop,
Sure.
you have to worry about grease and dust and things like that. So you have to make sure that you're able to maintain the pendants.
Yeah, because a lot of the new pendants now, they expose the Edison bulb. That's sort of a look now to be more industrial. And a lot of times the shades because they're exposing the bulb, the shades themselves are glass, whether they're
Right.
colored glass so you're seeing a lot of more glass in the kitchen. And again, there's an issue there with
Right.
maintenance as well. Would you say overall in the kitchens that you're seeing people doing today, do you think that the kitchens are too fashion focused, or do you think that they're getting better with doing more practical surfaces?
Well, I think as people are becoming better cooks, home
And
cooks.
Could I stop there? Why is that people are getting more sophisticated with cooking? I see people that are not trained chefs becoming much more, at least, interested in cooking themselves and not going out as much. Why is that?
Well, I think as a society, we've gotten very involved in home improvement shows,
Sure.
design shows, but then it's also transferred into cooking shows, Cooking Network, Food Network,
It's
things
become
like that.
a thing, hasn't it?
Supermarkets now have gotten very elaborate, sophisticated. We
Yeah.
have more food options than we've ever had before, and people have access to that. They can just sit and go to the store, see something that's available,
Right.
take out their phone, look up a recipe, buy the ingredients, go home. They can watch a video on how it's prepared, and
So it's
done.
more approachable, I guess,
Yes.
because there's technology has
Yes.
given us opportunities.
People aren't afraid of cooking anymore. They're embracing it.
Exactly. My last question to you, and we're about 3 minutes left, is what about technology in the kitchen? If you were to design a kitchen of the future, what do you think would be a great way to connect with people with recipes or ideas in a kitchen? Is it a board that we're going to put on the refrigerator? Is it something that drops down? Any sort of like grand ideas, if you could design your perfect kitchen where we integrate beauty and technology, that you would do?
Well, I know
something like that?
myself. I mean, I live with my iPad, and while I'm a trained chef and have experience cooking, Once in a while, I like to have a recipe available just to kind of keep me up to speed on what
Sure.
I'm doing. And I really do enjoy having that technology where I'm able to pull something up, sometimes I'll forget an ingredient and I'll be able to look something up, and I like having access to the
Sure.
technology.
Maybe like an iPad sort of that you can sort of mount on
Right,
something and just go, and you're
right.
done. I love technology, and I've learned to embrace technology over time. I do think there's a fine line between things being technical and then things not being artful. So I think those things can come together. And what's nice about what's going on right now, even though we're in a period of design that's very industrial, all that warmth of wood is coming in at the same time and balancing it. And you know what I've noticed, John, is that as much as the white shaker cabinets, who I've been doing for about 10, 12 years now consistently, will always be in style. I see people already starting to go to the next thing, which is more of like a weathered wood looking cabinet mixed with all the metals and technology,
Right.
because it sort of is a warm balance. So
Right.
I think we're going to see things continue to shift. I
Yes.
think because of technology, we can't be old fashioned too much. We can't go backwards. But I think it's going to be sort of an eclectic mix, don't you?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
You see that a lot.
Yeah. So I would say for you guys out there that are watching our program, if you're thinking about doing a kitchen renovation, a couple things that I would do is get somebody like John, somebody that's a professional that really knows what they're doing practically in the kitchen, and get their ideas first. There are wonderful places that you can go to on the internet. Houzz, Houzz, is a site that I go to often. Pinterest. Start your scrapbook, if you will, in your kitchen. It's going to be a big investment, so you want to make sure you want to do it right. You want to talk to a professional first, and most important thing, before you spend a dime on your kitchen, have a kitchen plan done. You buy a house, you say we're 5 years out from having a kitchen. Don't start putting a new kitchen in. Live in your existing space as it is. Take notes of what's working and what's not working for you, and then have a professional come in and say, this is what your kitchen should look like. Do a kitchen plan, don't you think?
Oh, yes, definitely.
A kitchen plan will make all the difference in the world. You're going to be living with that kitchen probably for a very long time. You also have to think about resale value when you do a kitchen. Don't do purple cabinets. And do something that's practical and beautiful at the same time. Thank you for being my guest today, John.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
A wealth of knowledge when it comes to kitchens.
Thank you.
And we have a lot of my show, Modern Design, which is on WHCR in Flemington. Also follow suit with what we talk about. So we're going to be doing a program now once each week on Wednesday. So if you miss our show here in Princeton, you can always you go to www.Hunterdon Chamber Radio and listen to our program as well. So I thank you for tuning in to our new program. Lots of wonderful things ahead. Thank you and have a terrific day.